3 times. Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. I guess you guys want to talk to me. Nothing else to now. I'll take it back. Don't eat lunch. You will not eat lunch. I'm joking, guys. No, I'm not even in a position to take away lunch from you. So, like, come on, relax. Okay, let's try something. Let's try something. Um, I'm gonna pick someone at random. Oops. And I'm not going to tell you what I do.
No, don't do it this when spirit comes. You don't do anything now, the wait until spirit comes. That's it.
Was someone else?
So,
Wait, random.
after lunch,
This is after lunch, we'll do the panel talk, the round table talk after lunch.
so what's happening now?
What's happening is talk about
You hear from the beginning again.
To come to spirit. What about the other people?
something else. And then we start talking about and then him.
That's fine.
This man is trying to tell me that no, I was drawn to him because we're from the same country. Nice, because his sunglasses look cool. Okay, cool. So you've seen some people who've been talking, well, not who've been talking about that, who've been speaking again, right? What did you get? There'll be a Q&A, guys. If you answer the questions right, I might give you a sweet.
Good afternoon. From the very first speaker until to the last speaker, I can summarize that there is a digital shift between us the humans and the AI. And this AI is a technology enhancement which is within us and we can't avoid or run away from the fact. But the thing that we have to be doing at the moment is to control and not to be controlled. So this is what I've been learning from the beginning until right now in summer.
Okay, who remembers when our last speaker was? No, I'm not going to say who remembers. No, he said, who's the doctor? I don't want you anymore. Sorry, I'm sorry. Um, hmm, hmm, hmm. What was the last speaker talking about?
About the AI in the regulations part. Yeah. Do I need to
For 10 months.
Okay, we'll say now. So this is this also.
Yeah, I think it's going to be better than me. No sleep for you. It's not going to be vision. Don't worry. The next question is going to be your vision. Thank you. The last speaker is Dr. Tato Mao. Terrible. Sorry. First, he talked about the importance of AI. He got us to data analysis and AI solutions. And then next came two disruptions caused by AI, zombifications, AI, fake news as examples, and then what we can do as African countries. which is first engage in global policy dialogues. We can also train personnel about Please forgive me, we're just having, I just think we're starting some nothing to each other, I don't know why. All right, guys, we're going to continue on with the program now. We'll do what we came here to do initially, right? So,
No, no.
right, right. Now, let's continue. We've got Mr. Matthews. I hope I'm saying your last name correct, or your middle name, Mango to be, right? Legal and strategy consultant, ICT policy advisor, public-private partnership expert. He's a seasoned legal and strategy consultant with a strong focus on ICT policy, commercial law, and public-private partnerships. He brings extensive experience advising governments, traditional authorities, and private clients on regulatory matters, strategic planning, and sustainable development initiatives. Please help me welcome him up to the stage. So you could tell my radio voice was happy.
The guy. And I need to use the help on to create some more. So, yeah, that would be but mine is to add on to what Dr. T spoke about. So the difference between us two identify Kimotona, he's audit so I think that's the basic distinction. But we more or less always address similar things. So I just have to complement that. The same manner, complement each other. So I am going to touch on the regulatory framework that exists in the world around artificial intelligence. So what is currently happening, which is what Tato touched on, is that currently there is development of artificial intelligence. It is on the one hand being developed, but it is also being deployed. We are using artificial intelligence right now. But no one seems to have a legislation that says this is how we're supposed to use this. So, in order for me to address that, so I have a bit of a write-up that I hope I will be announced by the organizers. You can go back home, put it together as a presentation, share it back with them, and because you give me the details, you can then get that. Where you can then approve yourselves with why and things. And I hope I'm inviting you to slow you down in case I'm with the crash or you miss certain things. Because I'm really into it. I'm not the best of I haven't been able to take advantage of AI. Otherwise, I would have asked it to prepare presentation. So, in Dr. T's presentation, he indicated to you that the idea that AI started as far back as in the 1950s. I think they said that Greeks and Egyptians were already conceptualizing an era where we just sat there and had slaves doing stuff for us. And these slaves were, the technology that was being developed. So the idea was that we would transfer our knowledge into some machinery, which machinery would then apply that knowledge that we have transferred in our daily lives. And then around 2017, so not forgetting that in the world currently, we've got developed countries and we've got developing countries. Developed countries are always in the forefront of development. We, as developing countries, are always playing catch up. So around 2017, the developed countries started now engaging on regulations, legal frameworks around artificial intelligence. And the different countries have put themselves together. They got what you call the European Union. So these guys then said they decided that they're going to put together an act that they call an AI Act. So it's called the European Union Artificial Intelligence Act. It is, in a sense, a genesis in regulating the development and deployment of artificial intelligence. So what then us as developing countries will then do is, we will then visit this act and pick that is applicable to us. Use it as a guideline. And please understand that this act is about creating a starting point in the process of us as different countries across the world, developing our own pieces of legislation. And it's important that we all get to at least have sight of this document so that we can help them. So what I also admit that I want to hear is that making laws is reserved for lawyers. I want you guys to understand that at this very stage where you are now, you are more than capable of influencing any piece of legislation that is presented to you and is said to be going to apply over your lives. So where you are sitting now, you are sitting in a advantageous position, where in fact you can inform Botswana's direction as far as putting together a piece of legislation that applies or regulates artificial intelligence. Please remember that. Please, because a lot of the times, at least during my era, when we grew up, we were always taught to report the sound of our. And I hope, well, I understand that that is not the case anymore. I have children myself, they sometimes call me. So 2017, developing countries started a sort of with the internet framework. And the European Union Artificial Intelligence Act was proposed in April 2021. And when these developed countries then came together, sat around the table in December 2023, they agreed that what they had is what they elected. By electing the incitement of as a piece of legislation. And this was done by the European Union Commission. You guys being public engineers, it should be easy for you to unpack all these terms that referring to now. So as I said, this act was finally published in the official journal of the European Union in July 2024. So that it is to be used or it is to serve as a keystone or a primary reference in regulating the development and deployment of AI firstly the European Union and now, as recent as January 2025, there were about 69 countries throughout the world. I don't know how many countries are in the world. But somebody help us. How many countries are there in the world? AI use 196, 97, 93, which was it? Final number. AI, final number, please. 197.
Yes.
Okay, let's go with 97.
95.
So,
95.
guys, we need to.
Okay, no, 195.
It's different AI models.
To the highest bidder. So we've got 195 countries in the world. Yeah? Of the 195, 69 countries have thus far, and that's as recent as January 2025, managed to develop regulatory frameworks around artificial intelligence. So when we talk percentages, that is 40-30% accountability. So in terms of percentage, you've got 163, you have 69. So roughly percentage 7, 14, 21, around 50%. So 40% of the world has decided to participate in this process of, developing regulatory frameworks for artificial intelligence governance. Now, the question that is asked is, where are we? And by we, we're not going to start. Where are we as a plan? So I went to this. I can go up on the country. South Africa has started to advance the process of regulating AI. As Patrick has mentioned, we, through the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies, issued a discussion document for consideration by the public. Now, for those of you that have been exposed to the development of Mola, I will go for quite a year. What's the right spelling of it? Anybody? What's the correct Setswana term that would develop now? Yes, I need to hear who develops Setswana. Thank you. Now, so what South Africa has done, as I said, is through its Department of Communication and Digital Technologies, issued a discussion document for consideration by the public, attempting to determine a uniform definition of AI and its value chain. So there is currently a national AI policy framework for South Africa. Parallel to this, so in any country, there is always a department which is a custodian. They are in industry, yeah? Remove address over. And then there is a regulatory body that is supposed to be independent of the government department, but that's the one that then monitors and enforces compliance. So department but so that process that is set. So it's a set process to develop a piece of legislation. And then they would then, I suppose, transfer responsibility when it's the legislature or a regulatory body regulates. Your network government for it. How do you start some assist? Motivated out of assist. How do you Nigeria must commit and move the running as well. I feel it was a people only want to okay. So I go see my house and was covered. So those are the guys that are then left with the process of engaging the public in soliciting comments, in soliciting views, opinions around the issue of legislation until ultimately even at the second the draft. The same draft. That draft. From then on, you follow a set process in actually a piece of legislation, have to write paper, and then finally decide it off. So, as I said, parallel to the process and national artificial intelligence policy framework is an attempt to agree on regulating AI-related issues, where in South Africa we are primarily focusing on one, data protection, and AI system usage. So, it's not like maybe you already likely quality of parts, but AI is driven by data. Likely, target work for the so technology will not keep up and say someone. But my understanding of AI is that only you can tell me that so there's a repository where information is fed, and that then regurgitates the information based on a whole host of applications, technologies, everything of us like. So I read somewhere hopefully initially we had thought, and I'm making an example, hypothetical speaking, we are able to process, for argument's sake, 10 different things. The human mind can process about 10 different things every given moment. But this thing called AI can process 1,000 times more. In fact, we do. And that's why feedback dialogue, many people want, feedback on our pieces. If on our distinction, oh, gracias a our father, who backgrounds on the stage. My comes out from the community. So we need to now also manage that information that one is fed and that comes out. But we'll get to that point. So because we don't have a specific piece of legislation that regulates AI, but piece, we then are forced to interrogate what we have and find something that addresses a certain aspect like AI. Then you can then interpret such that, yeah, through certain meantime, why is this phenomenon is developing? So that also touched on our act that promotes the protection of personal information. So more than anything, I think none of us want our data in them, and that's a phrase for the data is how do you handle it? I'm looking for. Sorry. So data don't give careful, and we are constitutionally empowered to decide on how it is used. So until we're not going to figure out, okay, let's be right. They can't, they shouldn't. It's against the law for them to do that. And AI being entered around information is subjected to these. So the reason for our advantage of this legislation it such that it is every part or every guarantee protection against the use AI. So, so what is happening is, like I said earlier, you have developed countries spearheading and running away with the development and deployment of AI. But again, Tato touched on it. You've got developing countries, there's some on the world now, who are also within reach of those developed countries in terms of development of AI. So in essence, one is possible, but I would also like to say that it's not too late. I mean, I hope you would like it right here. This European Union Artificial Intelligence Act was only published in July 2020. It's only last year, it's not even been a year. Probably the 10th month after. So we still have another 2 months for the next documents. So it's an opportune time for us to So it's an opportune time for developing countries to get on this bandwagon and start working towards doing something about the AI regulation. Because we need to avoid a situation where it's free for all. Like I said, information. Part of an example, we have the banking sector, where, you know, and I suppose you talk to numbers, doesn't it? Where people sought information that's banking related, and what came out in agriculture. So that then obviously will be the process. So we can't dilute the importance of correct information. So that if we allow a situation where if we allow a situation in Africa or almost about it, something that I can't then marriage affect the it won't work. So primarily now, that's the focus. There's data protection around AI system usage. Existing legislation is leveraged to address these AI-related issues. And like Dr. T said, we've got the Copy Act, COPIA, and the Consumer Protection Act, as well as the PCA. So in 2021, when this whole AI regulatory framework was started, countries that had sat around the table had set themselves a target where they would have fully implemented their, and this target was 2027. So they were able to, at least in 2024, publish it. And in the same year, it was operationalized. So it's an ongoing process, and they give themselves 6 months targets. So every now and then, progress is tracked. There's a report that is issued after 6 months. That explains where the process is, 12 months report, and so on. So, in as much as they will not have achieved, or at least the period has not passed, you will find that there's a report that says 6 months, these are the things that you should have covered. And by B and B or another developed countries. After 6 months, they've got another set of targets that they face after 12 months, and says what you should have. Now, the nice thing about this AI Act, the EU AI Act, is it provides for definitions. And it's important in any piece of legislation to find standard definitions so that there's no confusion. And this is done in anticipation of going to court. So what then happens is, unless the definitions are proper. Everything is left to the courts to define terms, and a lot of the times, I mean, you can avoid. You will find that the interpretation in your court or a particular term at times deviates from the actual objective. There has to be also this similar confusion. And imagine an open process that is then brought to business by an individual who does not have what I would call a full understanding. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure when I'm judging or I'm a lawyer, you can attest to the fact that what's talking about people, as much as they hold those decisions, naturally, powers that allow them to decide on people's lives. You know the limitations, you know the extent, I can really say AI. Or I can interpret, I didn't know when I come to talk about this. You know who you are, and you will take it. So just struggling to organize the group and group. So it's as simple as that. Now, when it comes to the process of development of data, it's a very complex exercise because it has to deal with a complex relationship between regulation and innovation. The objective of regulation is to bring about a world where, and in this context, AI and human intelligence can be talent. Obviously, they will have to be regulated environment. So that's where the details come in, where AI is defined. Thank you to the European AI Act. It has provided some definition to some extent via AI itself, but that definition hinges more on systems as opposed to a definition and the term AI. So coming back to that definition, it hinges more on the impact that AI has on society or human life and pits that against the risks that we get exposed to the AI. Now, the importance of governance is such that governance is so important that it's an ongoing battle. Literal interpretation and metaphor, you know that you've got a problem, you don't have a solution for it, but you manage it. That makes this called a kind of wonderful. So in essence, technology, in as much as it's a necessity, it is a problem. And because we don't have the solution, it's like a risk. So we can't do technology. We have to manage technology by governing it, by regulating it. And because technology is forever evolving. Development also happens at a very fast pace. Yet, it is people who are not tech savvy that must come up with the laws that will regulate this technology. So there's always this game and catch up that happens. So the regulatory of Marasita, Homarahun, Servata, so Seki, so legislation, development regulation is reactionary. You first have to understand something. Once you understand it, only then can you manage it, can be regulated, can be governed. So, again, it's not late. Developed countries still have time, but the time is now. So they have now, where all of us need to be and participate in the process of assisting our governments in regulating artificial intelligence. So, we then need to do to outline key considerations. These considerations have to be outlined, acknowledging the importance of a tailored approach in developing a robust regulatory framework that addresses AI's unique challenges and opportunities. So, like I said, there's that fast pace learning of the technology. Now, AI, it's a no-brainer. AI is poised to reshape economies and societies. And developing countries are nicely positioned to take advantage and take charge in AI development. We see, Dr. T mentioned a few countries, I think he mentioned Rwanda, not going to do it, there's China, there's India, there's Kenya. So those are classified developing countries, and they are up there with countries. And like I said, it's possible, it's doable. So as already acknowledged, the AI is poised to reshape economies and societies. We as developing countries are able to drive sustainable growth and address our pressing challenges. Now, our problems and challenges are different to those of developed countries. We are faced with limited resources. There is non-existent substandard or rehabilitated infrastructure, as well as limited talent or as a skills making. So I think when we go UK or America or France, we'll be confronted with these types of problems. So those guys have it good. And I suppose that's why that is another because they are aware as a concept or working for our problems are foreign to them. And that's why it's important for us to sit and contextualize our circumstances, the development that we make, and like really, it has to be a concerted effort where it includes everyone. In this instance, Africa affected people, AI affects all of us. From local if they are so everyone is taken where the development of AI related treatments. But the ongoing public participation process. But any documentation and the key points, you inform yourselves, you do a bit more research to understand it fully, and you can even ask the AI to tell you correctly how the fish should be. What is an ideal position ultimately for the developing country? And I'm sure AI will tell you that. So, in a sense, we are to avoid copying developed countries with great countries. They will not work for us. And it has been proven over the years. We can understand it. So the ask is for us to tailor make our own, and in tailor making our own regulatory framework. One, like I said, contextualization. We start by obtaining a comprehensive understanding of our circumstances so that we contextualize the development. We need to recognize our unique needs and develop our priorities and determine the order of preference or importance. So, when you are busy with time lab, I'm fine. it can happen monarchy because, you should be able to take pride in the fact that your effort is an investment into the future. Whatever contribution that you make. And it's not about you seeing what you thought you want to see in a piece of education. Every input is essential. Every single input. Every single input is essential in changing a piece of legislation. And you'll be surprised at how different we as a people think. And please remember that. Oscar, I've never been able to use the phone. And you tell me the pieces in the back. Oscar Modier, when it comes to public participation processes. And the nice thing for now is you can even do it online. I want to do any comments. It's either if you're brave enough and you feel that you're a speaker of note, you're able to go and stand before the committee and present your case. You can send in written submissions. You can even have yourself. You never have about 6. You know what I mean? You can even for student organizations. You come together and you submit your comments. Where you are influencing a legislation results, in fact, that already, let's talk to something that you are already subjected to. So I even not having my like I told you, in our days, what the members are talking. It's our whole music, if you guys is different, okay, the company, you want to but it's important that you guys participate in this. There's areas now. In fact, people will never completely the process, the whole idea they are. Because you understand that it's for you guys to do that so that we are able to then reflect and reflect. I will never fully understand this. So after contextualizing the development, recognizing our unique needs and prioritizing them for the arrow. Like I said, Matata for you, Matata, Namo, South and Africa, Masala are totally different. So, connectivity around Tanabai per second. That's infrastructure. So it's for us to then decide what is our priority from number 1 up to whatever. Even when okay, this is what the highest preference, goes like this, goes like this, goes like this. We are also supposed to acknowledge or realize the evolving of 3 age of technological development. So Dr. T mentioned today, so some of the AI you can correctly. It actually really AI. Yeah? And how long have you been using it? It's been years. But in our discussions, and when we were around the table, we came to one conclusion now. The reason why this needs to be regulated now and why it's a buzz is because of this proliferation. It's the extent of the development. It's the fact that it now touches everyone's life. So for us to still wait for some local right time, we'll be shooting ourselves in the foot. And we can't afford it. I was after the corner and abandoned and said anything. Okay, the one abandoned is okay. And I think through AI will support. There's a need for collaboration or teamwork. Now, that's what I'm going to do. We need to identify and acknowledge all the affected parties for stakeholders. Now, I said earlier, Ahona forcing an affected party. Ahona always seeing a stakeholder where AI is concerned. So it's for us to strap our things and create. So yes, we need to read. I don't know what the best one in taking advantage of this technology and using it for the honor of the regulations saying for the IT. I'm throwing a package. And again, we could even say from Kalahari to Habbo, we should all participate in the process of developing a robust and tailored regulatory framework. One other thing that we need to do is to be honest with our budget or budgeting. And we also need to be able to manage this budget because we understand the extent of the process and determine it's important for us to determine a balancing act that is of the limited resources versus the need for regulation. Okay, wait. So remember we started off by contextualizing the facts against AI. We understand what AI is, we understand its benefits, we understand the risks that it comes with. Now, once we've identified our issues, constantly reprioritizing and order that we prefer. Once we have done that, we need to then ask ourselves for how much is it going to cost us to get to a point where we have a regulatory framework that can be monitored and enforced. Yeah. So, budget detail. You know, this is going to do this, and this is what it must achieve for us. And we can only make sure that we get the maximum value out of that budget if we manage it correctly. So you guys need to be the forefront of that. You need to be calling out people. The minute one another process are missing. The minute one another is overspent on an item, on an item, and on the execution of the proposed to the government. You guys need to stand up. You need to call out people. Literally call them out. The process needs to be transparent. People that are in tasked with the responsibility need to account. It's a nice thing, you know. But what usually happens is we wait for things to happen, they will be at the home now. When the time when you were given the opportunity to participate in the very process, in fact, informing only, you still back. Again, please participate as early as possible in these things. I mean, you didn't do they can have a certain risk. You could even initiate this when you are. Now, developing and deploying a regulatory framework that is informed by ethics that upholds or promotes human rights. Now, I'm not going to talk So remember, I said that I was listing the points that will inform our process, the how to develop a regulatory framework. Yeah? Here, they are contextualized. Yeah? We understand our circumstances, we set priorities. We place those priorities in our order of preference. We acknowledge the evolving nature and developmental technology so that even the regulatory framework that we put up to deploy it to adapt because the state also changes the we need collaboration and teamwork. We're not leaving anyone out. Like we Kalari, Kabul. Budget. From setting up a budget or putting together a budget to managing it. Like our lives depend on it. And lastly, in all of this, in this regulatory framework that we are developing, we should be informed by ethics. So, what we want to ensure for the AI, for the model, all the AI usage, so ethical. So it is expected of anyone who is an AI to use it in an ethical manner and acknowledging and upholding our human rights. I'll put a right to dignity. I'll go on to the career. Now, what is the thing that robust regulatory framework? In our context, it is important that we also contextualize the definition. Yeah? In order to realize the objectives and inform the development of a tailored robust regulatory framework, it is important that we are able to apply it, in that we are able to monitor and enforce compliance. Therefore, this robust tailored regulatory framework must address the following. Moreover, so this regulatory framework must be precise, or it must be informed by precise or clear guidelines of data governance. Yeah? Now, data governance includes managing information, and information management includes collection, storage, and usage. Yeah? All this hinge on privacy and security. So the technician jumps around. I'm going to call IT technicians or IT engineers. So I know I'm addressing back. Please understand this. AI in its true intent is not going to take away anyone's job. Can enhance the targeted growth area today. So AI simplifies things, however, we still are burdened with the hard work. We are not going to say AI give me this and people will it. We must also understand that AI is doing. So how do I extra listening? It's a guy, I say, the bunch of such a travel with Twitter. I know so that's AI. Again, ethical development and development. So let's take social media for instance. We got so-called influencers. Yeah. We heard of the term happy something from the internet or somebody who are trend. Now, a lot of the times, all these things, there's no ethics attached to them. We are excited by non-ethical things lately as a race, where it's either something that is indecent, it's something that is inhumane, it's something that is cruel. Say, will generate an interest amongst us. Those are the things that go viral. I said, go over there, you do not have a I'm not judging. But the idea is to ensure that we've got ethics at the forefront of our regulating area. So like I said, people are more interested in attracting views, likes, rating social media or the internet, trending, onboarding more followers, whilst ignoring or making ethical considerations. So it's for us who are going to inform this robust, tailored regulatory framework. We are going to ensure that it promotes bias mitigation. Now, all South Africans, we are going to nako e telele. Before someone actually brought it to everyone's attention, now, what it used to do is marketing or algorithm doing now. Think I know what you're saying for to some extent. It's a poor. I say the efficiency and now someone will be judgmental about how it shows my preferences. But remember, I don't know how algorithms work, and I'm hoping people will explain it to us. But we must mitigate against bias when AI is concerned. We need to hold people accountable. AI, there should be transparency. So you can't want to feed information on a system and not want to, what's the word? And not want people to know who you are. You can't take anonymity where you are feeding information in the mainframe. I don't know why we want to get the data, like we must be able to say, can I get a program director, and my name is so and so, and this is what I do. In fact, information as it is brought to the public, we must be able to trace it there and say, this is what is the country. Now, we cannot have that if you guys are not going to participate in any process that is aimed at developing. Remember, robust, tailored, and intent. Again, it's your responsibility. There must be promotion of skills development and capacity building. So, if you remember when smartphones came out, my father is 80 years old. I sent him a message on Monday. Yeah, something that we have been waiting for so long. They had to do it. So for me, it was a milestone. He then somehow ends up commenting, I don't know if he's a nice face that has a teardrop. I did not. I got emotional at teardrop when to my surprise, obviously I was, I will not forget him. He's not even aware of it. And then he wants to ask me for it now. What here? What are you talking about? You know? So I am saying you don't want a situation where your father or your mother accidentally instructs AI and something else comes out and it gets out there. We don't want a situation where children end up committing suicide because they could not complete the task. Which task a teacher gave them thinking that they know how to use AI. We don't want parents to kids come home and expect them to help them. They find the parents don't know anything about AI and can't help their children. And then you have these other parents who can be left there that they are judgmental and to say others are useless. You don't want employees going to work and faced with scenarios where AI could have made their lives easier and they are not able to do that. We don't want a situation where you've got people in the health sector having emergencies and had they been exposed to AI would have saved their life and they can't. We don't want a situation where a security personnel would have saved lives by being exposed to AI and able to use it effectively. But remember, ethically, transparently, and still be able to handle. So those are some of the key things that come with the process of developing AI. Those are the processes that we need to, those are the principles that we need to always remember. In developing, remember a robust, take that regulator. We must guarantee capacity and availability of the necessary infrastructure. I hope I'm planting this seed. I got to have it for Mutu how we can have it. Anyway, I just went to AI. I'm sure that we've got villages that are so far flung that there's no connectivity. Two, even while still humble, there are times when you drop calls. There are times when you lose connectivity. Yeah? Now, if we are going to take advantage of AI, we need to sort out all those shortcomings. We need to make sure that there's capacity. We need to make sure that our infrastructure is laid out and it's maintained. That is very important if you are to take up this opportunity that has presented itself to us. So we must ensure that there is internet access, there's cloud computing resources, and there are data centers. Can that be the buzzword? Data centers. So data center management are key information center, key information safe. We need those, and that's where we go for purpose of improving a budget that will be used for this. Collaboration and partnerships so that we adopt certain aspects of triple P models. Dr. T mentioned it. So, what is a triple P? The acronym stands for public-private partnerships. So, a layman's definition, the triple P is government has a responsibility, it outsources it, but it retains the responsibility, the other responsibility. So government remains accountable. So government is answerable. Government are you see, ma'am? So government then says, something happens in the way government, which US they are the but we can go ahead and say, man, there's a way that you will be paid for that. How you are getting paid for that is or charge out of what all the excellence today. So government level you build this road and you manage it, maintain it for a set period. That is called a concession. Very interesting. Government then identifies it for yeah. We have come to understand that tourism is an industry. There are many things that can be done in a family is involved. Hunting, viewing, lodges, and you can even private as well. Now, public then goes to government already, but but you have a responsibility to create jobs, you have a responsibility to transfer skills, train people, you have a responsibility to develop the economy. Public then says, I don't know, keep happening, keep such a photo, and keep go, but game of the day, for more. Now, I've got enough money that I can use to develop this place. In the video, there's into my time to realize that it's so enable economic development. Whenever I make a problem and ensure that I'm not pushing, and then those other things. Now, you then already take over that responsibility. So, our concession here, asset community, which is that then, if I be there for you, any government laws which are supposed to actually keep that. And it can even be given equal respect. I mean, they ask for the possibility. why? I know the doctor is a how the pharmacist in a daily specialist, and you come yourself here and say, okay, come in, we'll take over this hospital for you. You then run this hospital, come in the one concession, you can get it between 15 and 25 years. So, Baba can allow how to So that is an example that is working. So a private party came up and said, this is what we'll do for you, if I'm not going to. So it's either government will subsidize the fees or when, depending on the financial model, will be able to generate your return, your investment from the users. Expected. So what then happens here is we as society will come together in the public sector, the private sector. So whatever you want private sector, in private sector no segment is there. The government and the users. That's why you are able to then adopt certain principles like triple P. Because what is key is cooperation. Government is not going to be able to put together a regulatory framework that is robust and that is tailored to suit the needs or context. That's what. It is through teamwork, collaboration, from Canary to that you will realize a tailored, robust regulatory framework that then regulates the development and deployment of artificial intelligence. So, again, whatever efforts that you put into this are investment for the future. It is important that we appreciate the transformative nature of artificial intelligence and we must lock it. We need to embrace a tailored, inclusive, and flexible approach. We must, in the process, mitigate its risks whilst ensuring that it serves every Mozambique's needs. That's one. You have an opportunity to create an AI future that is beneficial, equitable, and sustainable. I want to thank you.
All right, can we give him another round of applause, please? Maybe you were thinking of that thing, but that was the longest one we have to be. I mean, you can already see him projecting that class. Next speaker is Mr. Chokonopo, the Chokonopo Maru Molo. Did I say that right?
Molo. It's one word.
Maru Molo. You had a hand up? What's up? You have a question? He said he doesn't want questions anymore. Yeah, sure. Okay, the one question and then we'll get to the next speaker, okay?
Questions later.
So that's it.
Good afternoon. Okay, thank you for that speech and presentation of the nephews. I wanted to ask, right, as an ICT advisor, I believe we speak on issues of like legislative reform around AI governance, right? Being that AI moves from like data collection to like storage and all that. And then you also spoke of how like it could be government, but honestly speaking, if you had to advise, to what extent do you think we can regulate, like government can go to regulate AI? I think to add a bit of context to the question, seeing how I'll use the US, right? During the election, how there was a problem with certain AI companies withdrawing certain information from platforms, also in an era where we're facing anti-internet right? Because we people depend on AI for information. To what extent do you think government can regulate such instances?
No, yeah.
No, they're just answering this one of the regulations.
So, remember,
We have to jump
key
into the next
aspects
presentation.
Yeah, I just told him that he's
of
not
developing
going straight into it.
and grade AI,
Q&A.
developing tailored results to
Let me know.
Yeah, it's not that according to many different times of the day.
There should be accountability, transparency, so that it's not about stopping people. It's about managing. So what government needs to do, right, is to develop a governance or regulatory framework that is ethical and protects human rights.
Hmm.
You cannot then not know what you need to have in your framework if you are then going to develop a framework that addresses those issues. So the minute you would want to post anything that is false, that is defamatory, you know that there will be consequences. Like I said, it's always a reactionary approach. Even if you know we know that the speeding limit here is 60 kilometers per hour, you still find some of us going further than that. Even if you are told that you cannot post anything that's defamatory, there are going to be those that do that. Now, you then have people that own the platform that allows you to post stuff. Those are the people that will have to make sure that they know who is posting stuff. So we should be able to say, okay, now I'm networking on Moscow. And then go to Moscow and say, okay, number 8, email address 8. Yeah. So it's that aspect, but also allowing the very mobile operators. There's a $10 coin on Africa take out. Yeah. Where if something is posted, that is not, I'll use the word appealing. They are then able to take it out. And it's for you that feels that you have the right to post that and take them out. It's very subtle. So it's not that difficult in a process to apply as long as it is done right. And that's why it is important to then, in these public participation processes, because these are the things that you then force your regulators to consider. We don't have outreach programs that are similar to outreach programs that are implemented in developed countries. So that's another thing. If we legislate, people need to understand the circumstances. People need to know what the implications are of transgressing. Not everybody is fluent in English. So what are we going to say? You need to take up these languages. You need to have people actually go out there and teach people about it, so that they understand it and are not then going to. So I expect that happened in the years, but if you really think about it, there does not political validity. I mean, look, people were found guilty or sent to jail, the new president comes in and frees the very people. So those are the things. I hope I was able to answer the question. Or is somebody short?
All right, we're gonna get into the next presentation. Quick us. Are we ready with it?
Yeah, I think so.
Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. May you kindly confirm if you can hear me? Program Director. Am I audible?
Please stand by for our technical difficulties. We will be with you shortly. So, how's the weather?
Right. Got to get 2 seconds.
Okay.
What do you guys think we're doing for lunch? I feel like there'll be a nice somewhere today. Maybe hope there's smoke somewhere today. Lunch.
One of the few the laptop. On the laptop. Next. Or laptop between. Yeah, laptop. Let's use this one. Think about it. See. Confusing myself with just gonna talk that side. Yeah. Okay, things like here. See, but this one is nice. Should it be on the nice one? The short one. Coming as nice. Yeah. So that means now, what should I say? Call my impact. We call my
It just looks like as a headset. What is it like? Just put it on the headset thing.
speaker should be a regular speaker, isn't it? I can hear.
Colleagues, I've been informed to try again, and
Yeah, yeah.
I hope that you can hear me.
So the sound is not yet.
Can I get some confirmation?
Okay, then we should join maybe. We adjust it's just the settings. The microphone is on. Tana,
I get what I'm saying. The same one that you're playing the formula is just repeating.
the one that I was playing from.
Are you able to connect the mic and put the Jabra somewhere? I've got this guy also.
Hey,
Will this not work?
I can hear
And
you.
put the mic next to it. Because it is loud on its own.
yeah, because the thing is, I need to hear him here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Try that. If it fails, connect this guy. He'll be coming out from here. You put that mic next to it. And connect to it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
how are you connecting this?
Here. Here is
Audio.
audio headphones, which is
Yeah.
this,
Yes.
right?
So it's fine.
So it's fine. Now, from here, from here,
It's fine.
that's
Coming from there. Yeah.
coming from there to here. Now,
Yeah.
what I need to do,
If it doesn't work, they can. This guy is quite loud. So if they put the microphone there, it will work.
but maybe what we're doing is, should I then maybe get no, because he's ready. He's literally ready.
No, it's just that you came up with one. This is the same like you're using all about.
Yeah.
You could easily use this and put the mic.
No, no.
Then it will be loud like he's speaking the whole room.
Yeah, so it has to go from there.
You know when you're on like a first date, there's that awkward face, yeah,
So now,
this is that awkward face.
for him to ask,
But we don't know what to talk about. And we're like, hey, it's just the waiter to come
I
and
think
dance.
This can work.
allow.
You're not
Yeah.
sure if you wanna order more.
Connect with Jabra now. Yeah. Remove this guy here.
Now you're
This
thinking
one.
and you're like, hey, I can't just do this.
Yeah.
Oh.
And connect the Jabra.
I'll go and tell them.
The Jabra will be.
Us talking.
Yes.
Slow down, Savannah.
How are you
Slow down. That's what we are.
No, through that.
Yeah. And he's able to capture this whole.
How we doing, y'all? Did you guys get pictures by the photographer who got back? No? I saw you. I saw you too. You see why they say women are liars? Lying both ways. No, but guys, if you look at your picture, I'm not saying go now, but like later when you go outside and stuff, just get a picture with you. You doing a great job. I did one and everything. Yeah, you should see. Oh, actually, what we do eventually do it.
My brother, can you hear us on that side?
Yes, I can hear you from here. I can hear you very clear. Can you hear me?
I think he hears us, but he's trying to talk.
Yeah. I can definitely hear you.
It's that's the part that is driving me crazy. Try again. Right, that's here. Right. Choose that. And then this is the front. Yeah. Still, still that one. This is number 2.
Who would have thought that an AI conference was what? The tech guys would have been struggling with
The second one. Fine.
I don't know about y'all, but I don't trust this anymore. You just already, because you were better as the doctor area, now with you guys. What I just don't want to trust anybody right now.
Uh, Colleagues, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, colleagues, for your assistance. Good afternoon. And it's really a privilege and an honor to have this opportunity. Let me first do the needful and recognize the program director. Thank you very much, program director. Although program director, you could not say Marumulwa. And of all these people that crossed the border to come to that event, I should be the one that you should know because ke ngwana ko Good Hope. And, people in Barolong Farms, if they hear that this name could not be pronounced in Gaborone, they'll be very sad. Even those that I'm also related to on the paternal side in Bubirwa, ko ga Mmangwato. I would have really loved to be in this event in person. But thank you very, very much, Program Director, for a very insightful and exciting program. Let me also thank all the organizers, and in particular, let me also thank the speakers. And the speakers have taken all the words that I was going to use, colleagues. And the way we do it in where I come from, I could just say "Ke la me leo," because everything that they have said, they have taken all the words. I have nothing left to share. But needless to say that I will try. Let me thank the speakers and who have really done very well. I have really learned a lot today. I have been following the discussions via the online platform. Colleagues also allow me to single out Mr. Mabusela also as a chief host, along with the sponsors that have made this event possible. We really need more of these events to be taking place within our region, and the time is now. And I would have loved to be in the room, even though I'm in the room with you digitally, and especially to look at the young people that are up and coming and say, the time is now. There is absolutely no reason not to start. We have everything that we need within our midst, and the only revolution that we should be worried about is the AI revolution, because it is a wave of change that is really set to make an impact that will last for decades, if not centuries to come. And I really hope that this kind of events will help us to really want to grab this opportunity and participate. So I'm not here, colleagues, to impress you or to wow anyone. I'm just here to talk passionately about the brief that I was given, but mostly to really have this opportunity to try and encourage every single one of us to be involved in AI. I want to thank Resubing, Dr. Maota, and the many other speakers that covered issues of institutional regulation and government related aspects in terms of the policies, the laws, and so on. And my comments should not be seen as if bagolo ga ba setse ba rutile, botsadi ga bo setse bo rutile, jaanong nna ke tla ka go fetola thuto e batsadi ba e tsentseng. But I am saying that a lot of these things needs to be moving together. Yes, we need to have policy regulations. We need to have um, shared ideas and principles that will guide how we do things. And whilst we are doing that, it will help for us to get involved as much as possible so that we also leverage the feedback and the experience that we get from the efforts that we are putting to empower these principles and how they should be tabled. Colleagues, I will try to stick to the brief that I've been given. It is very easy to get sidetracked when you speak about a topic that is as fascinating as anything that has to do with AI, especially with business intelligence for me. So I will try to stick to the brief that I was provided so that I don't overdo it. Ke ska ka e latswa bobe. Um, my background, colleagues, and I feel that the background is always important because it helps one to contextualize where the speaker is coming from, and ideas may not always be quite um, relatable, but you really only and you can only really speak on the basis of what your experience has been. So I come from a tech background, predominantly within the higher education space over the long period of time. That's where predominantly myself and Dr. Mawota found each other. And I am very fortunate to have had the opportunity to lead implementation of some of the most successful initiatives that have come out of the sector in the country. Recently, I've led the implementation of Unintelligence, which was an enterprise data hub within a higher education space that has seen created the blueprint for the sector within the country, in this case, South Africa. I was also involved in creating the first higher education qualification verification system in South Africa called the IIE Mark, for the private group that I worked for that owned brands in higher education. This approach has since been adopted by many institutions within the borders of the land. I also happen to have implemented another platform called the Kito, and this was quite significant because it was in a private space, which is not always easy because the way corporate functions, that you are actually paid to do what you are told and less of the thinking. The, as the saying goes, there are no woke people in corporate. Corporate prefers things that have been trial and tested, and very little they would entertain ideas that are out of the norm, lest if research and development units would have been placed to perform that role. I've also been involved in the public sector. I created an evidence collection system in Gauteng that was deployed within the Johannesburg metropolitan area. That had promised to really have shaped quite a lot of uh, you know processes that desperately needed to be digitized from a digital transformation point of view, and we did achieve some of it before the project could not proceed further. That had actually gotten adoption from major stakeholders within that particular sector of transport. And we had actually made quite meaningful impact in terms of leveraging insights as a result of data digital transformation to provide real-time insights to law enforcement organizations, but also third parties such as Uber and SAB also leverage the insights that came from there. So now the idea here is that as somebody that has been involved in tech and having worked with tech in the traditional sense and having had the privilege and the opportunity to work on, even though I was based predominantly within the education sector, I also had the opportunity to work outside that sector in between separate gigs, even when I ran my own consulting, when I started my own consulting firm. I, had the privilege of branching out in professional services and really gaining insights. Now, the brief that I've been given here in this context is to talk about how business intelligence can aid digital transformation, and doing this by leveraging AI. So you can imagine that these are three main areas that are, they've got enough depth themselves, and to have to unpack them and to now have to talk to how they can relate, that pose to be quite challenging. But needless to say that I have accepted the challenge, and in this regard I will try. So in a short stint that I've been involved in tech, just yesterday, we have come from a time when everything needed to be done manually. Literally, I think Google might have been our only source at the time, and the amount of time that it took just to get the knowledge of something, never mind putting the knowledge to use. And over time, as digitization became to deepen, and became even more accessible to us, it slowly but surely started becoming more automated with a lot of tools that were made available to us. And of recent times, we started actually using a lot of AI. Now, of course, AI has been as an idea, and I think from a theoretical capturing point of view, academically, it has been existing for years. And predominantly might have only really, from an application point of view, been accessible to organizations that could afford to do so. And I think we only started really seeing a bit of AI in this case, what we refer to as the general artificial intelligence, which was narrow based. We began to only see that coming up through possibly advanced digitization, especially through the smartphones and so on, as other speakers have said. And until now, we are actually moved away from a narrow based AI to an AI that is actually more general based. And in actual fact, in my view, when we already have large language models that are more than 75 billion parameters, we have actually reached a state of being in the super intelligence state. So that is my experience and my journey as far as AI is concerned. And the understanding of the brief for me is to talk a little bit about the digital transformation part of what I've done or continue to do now. In particular, talk about business intelligence as a component of digital transformation, but more importantly, talk about practically. And I say practically because, um, and you'll have to forgive me, colleagues. I really believe that if we are going to be serious in instilling confidence for people to take up AI, we need to do away with the brochureware, and we need to make the information practical and accessible. And the reason why this is important is that if I echo the words that the rest will being shared in his closing remarks, to say that he's encouraging Botswana to, especially the youth, to start participating now. There are matters of resources that will always be an issue that cannot be avoided, but there's always a place to start. And I guess I'll provide some ideas or some experience in how one could potentially leverage AI. Now, if you think about it, AI can be also leveraged in other areas outside business intelligence. It could even be leveraged, of course, it can be leveraged in other domains of digital transformation. It can also be leveraged in other domains, even outside digital transformation. What is happening now is that we are seeing a high uptake of people who has absolutely no tech background and taking up AI, especially at an application level, learning the AI tools and services that are accessible. And because of the depth of understanding in the areas that they are working in, whether it's medicine, whether it's retail, whether it's even education, we are seeing this idea of citizen developer actually emanating to become more impactful and more relevant than trying to take tech people and have them exposed to multiple industries. Now, what does this mean? It means that we are seeing a very clear evidence of the fact that the AI that is available currently, which can be applied to multiple industries, does not require you to be coming from a tech background. In fact, if you are talking about AI engineering away from its more detailed dependencies such as machine learning, deep learning, and so on, you realize that AI engineering as a standalone practice and benchmark, which is about the application of AI, that it's actually much easier to pick up and use even when you are not from a tech background, especially when you are not from a tech background, because the world in which we exist on is a world that is full of problems. And where there are problems, there are opportunities for solutions. So I'm of the view that I'm just here to, if I can do it, encourage you to see how you can pick up AI from the background that you're coming from. You don't have to be from IT. You could be coming from HR. You could be coming from commerce, and you could be coming from law. Um, that how you could actually pick up AI and actually at an application level leverage AI faster, quicker, and even more impactful because of the depth of the background and the domains that you are coming from. Now, to talk a little bit about digital transformation, colleagues, I will not go into the depth of the concept. Really, if I have to explain it to my 2-year old, to my 7-year-old Lekgeto, that everything that uses information or that requires a process that we have been doing manually or in other forms of intervention. If you can digitize that process for it to become efficient, for you to save time, for the outcome to be more accurate, you have actually achieved digital transformation. At a very complex level, you can talk about a digital transformation in the scope of green and brown fields, where it moves from just having the tool and having the technology to how you are integrating the technology. It could move from just merely accessing and leveraging the tool to actually how you modify the tool to achieve specific output that are critical for your business or for your organization. Now, what is important for this conversation is that there are multiple components of digital transformation, and one of them has to do with data management and data analytics. I was very happy to hear Resuping talking about data governance, and I think Dr. Maota also referred to aspects of governance that overlap with this idea of data governance, and in practice and at a functional level we refer to this as data management. So within this ecosystem of implementing digital transformation through data management or business intelligence is that there are components from a digital transformation that are important. And of late, and when you go into sophisticated industries, you see that these players and these activities can shift from industry to industry. I did a project recently, about 4 years ago, at CGS, our custodian for geological geoscience data in South Africa, where I developed the data management framework, which was supposed to be implemented primarily for seismic data. And this was important because we needed to be able to have the capability to be able to predict tremors and earthquakes with our own credible data. And without having to rely on the Japanese, on the Chinese, or some other people that have been doing this for us. So that was a significant big data environment with about a minimum 15 terabyte of data generated daily. And they needed to have an idea on how they can actually consolidate that data. And some of the practice that were actually being done there were quite shocking. So to align a digital transformation implementation, leveraging data, we needed to ensure that there was a people component. We needed to ensure that there was a process component. We needed to ensure that there's a technology component. Of course, with the three alone, with data coming much later, this is a framework that has been quite popular and have been leveraged for decades. But that implementation required us to digitize the process and ensured that the actors understood how the processes were being adapted, at what point were they going to be involved in the process, and so forth. All because we needed to get data that was clean, that was dependable, and data that we could actually leverage for decision making. Now, if we are then talking about business intelligence to empower this idea of digital transformation, you will realize, colleagues, that I can almost every organization that I have worked with who says they want to do a digital transformation, the first thing that they ask you to do when you get there is to look at the data platforms. And the reason why they do that, I understand it completely, and for the most part, I do agree, is that if you want quick turnarounds, data is actually a low hanging fruit. Analytics, anything that is within this particular value chain, is low hanging fruit. So they will call you and they will ask you to start looking at the data immediately as a component of digital transformation. And data now becomes the stepping stone for bigger and larger digital transformation programs. So, business intelligence, therefore, is an important practice in this regard, because if you are going to be working with data, you need to collect that data accurately. You need to have that data processed accurately in terms of transformation and so on. You need to have that data analyzed thoroughly, and you need to ensure that there are processes that pertains to what are the outcomes that you are going to get from that data. So for instance, by the way, business intelligence, the analytics is not the only default output of business intelligence. Sometimes the output of business intelligence could be for the purpose of regulatories. If in SA we have a regulatory requirement that requires you to submit data as a blueprint of your organization, especially in the higher education sector, where that information is partly used to calculate the subsidies that can be made available to your institution. It's a fairly compact and comprehensive program. Now, in other words, it means that the result of business intelligence may be analytics for consumption, or it may be for other uses. Now, of course, analytics being one of the number one reason why people do business intelligence is because they want to have a report or a fancy dashboard or some other forms of information product that can provide insights. So business intelligence, therefore, is that process. I never take for granted um, giving context into basic concepts, because we sometimes, colleagues, those of us that have access to the internet, that have had the privilege of attending university, we sometimes think that these things are common sense to everyone, and they are not. You will be shocked just how many people, even in the room, would have not. There's so many things that are happening. It's almost impossible to keep track of everything. So I wanted to just share that as an idea, as a concept, so that there's appreciation of when we refer to business intelligence, what do we mean? And all of this work, by the way, we've been doing it manually without AI, not in the context of AI as and how we practice it now. We have been going into the databases, opening the database manually, going through, yeah, 1,000 tables in a database, looking at the attributes manually, looking at the attributes of the of the object, trying to determine the relationship using all sorts of tools, profilers, and so on, to understand the quality of the data. All of these things requires a lot of manual labor that has to be put in place in order for you to come out of the process with the view that you have actually done something meaningful. Now, what I'm here to try and provide is, what are the possibilities, as per the brief, what are the possibilities of, at what point of each of this step do we leverage AI now? What kind of AI can we leverage, and what can we get from that particular output? And to also put it into context, the people that are involved in BI, in your organizations, or um, with institutions that you're affiliated to, they've got the responsibility of ensuring that multiple systems that are installed to make sure that the organization can transact and perform its transactions, that all of that data is identified and it's consolidated into some central repository and analyzed and made available for reporting. Sometimes they go all the way for to actually creating the actual reports. So that is in a very simple context, without really being technical. This is what you can refer to as business intelligence, more or less. Now the question is, you are sitting there and you think about the work that you have to done. Sorry, the work that you have to do manually. There must be a process that might be similar to what I've just unpacked here, that you also follow. In order for you to get annual reports finalized, you go through a process. In order for you to get a research report, if you are still studying, you go through a process. Now, the reality is that in each of these process phases, there are things that have to be done manually. Now, I, I'm, I really prefer to engage about these issues on a practical basis. The simple question is, how many of these things can AI assist you to do at a very minimal level? And what kind of AI can assist you to do what exactly? And that you can now imagine that, as it can be transferable into your own spaces. So think about the BI, but in this case, the BI for you may be any other process that requires some form of interventions to make it more efficient and so on. So we therefore, with that having been said, can of course narrate very clearly and qualify BI as an aspect of digital transformation. There are these benefits amongst many that will then emanate from this process called business intelligence that makes it to be a component of digital transformation because of these digital capabilities that it makes possible for users to consume. That is just really for information, and of course, these things are
No, it just went silent. It just went silent. Let me see what happened. Maybe he went offline on his side. Oh yeah, we lost him. We lost Mr. Fokonolo. He's coming right back. So let's give it a few seconds.
am I audible now?
Yes, we lost you just for a minute. I think connection dropped a little bit, but
Yes, yeah. Okay,
you
no,
can.
thank you very much. Okay, thank you, sir. Sorry, colleagues. There's a When I was in Europe recently, they made a joke and said, "Tell me you are from South Africa without saying that you are from South Africa." And I said, "Well, I don't know. There's many." They said, "Ah, no, you can just say load shading." That's exactly what has happened to me.
Oh no.
My sincere apologies, colleagues. I will try to be faster so that nothing else stops me. Can you see my screen? Is my screen
Yes,
visible?
yes,
Okay.
we can see your screen.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Now, I'm moving to a position of every part of the job has its own difficulty, and often the difficulty is what leads us to end up having to come up with ideas that are brilliant, that are out of this world. And as far as business intelligence is concerned, one of the major challenges that has actually led to us moving into a space where we need to look at things like AI. Why did we even think about AI? I mean, business intelligence has its own intelligence, so we needed more intelligence to double the dose on the intelligence that you already have. And the fact of the matter is that when you look at the business intelligence maturity model, and I'm sure many people in the room have seen this kind of diagram before, that you the question starts becoming very minimal and basic. And as you understand your business better, you move from what happened to why did it happen or how did it happen. You now move to becoming interested on what will happen. You now start actually um, uh, uh, um, becoming even more direct to say, if something is likely to happen, how can we actually encourage for this thing to happen? Or if something is likely to happen and we don't want it to happen, how can we discourage it to happen? If you are managing a school district, and your predictive analytics are suggesting to you that over the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be an increase in teenage pregnancy. That's a number that is increasing, but that's not a good number to increase. You may say that, well, we want to look for ideas that can actually make this number not to actually. Now, here is the challenge. The baseline from which we have to achieve this predictive and prescriptive, the tools that we have presents a challenge. So, and the reason why there's a reason why for business intelligence, it was an area that was not attended for a very long time. It had a very long winter period where the majority of the evolution was focusing on the applications, the web, the systems to get the businesses running, and business intelligence was actually not really evolving, and there was very little innovation that was happening on business intelligence. In fact, some of the practices that we are still having now go as far back as the mid 1900s. So the question therefore is, who then invites artificial intelligence into this environment that is previously been dominated by BI? Well, first and foremost is the fact that there's been a neglect of data related technology. If you look at the last couple of decades, actually, many of this digitization or digitalization innovations have focused mostly on applications. We can talk about web, web 1.1, web 2.0. We can talk about how we moved from assembly libraries to GUIs. All of these things happens while there is primarily no innovation in data. That is why it's so difficult to get rid of Excel now, because when Excel came and it became like a bit of a new innovation, it was something almost like from space. People are still clinching to that thing like their life depends on it, and we are struggling to get people to move out of Excel because there are reasons why that application is no longer ideal or recommended to use. Then we woke up one day in 2017 and realized that we have this thing called big data. And why did we realize that in 2017? Because we had the technology that generated all the data, but we did not have the technology to process and generate insights from this huge volumes of data. And the technology implementation, of course, all of these things that happened between 1970 and now that focused mainly on getting the businesses running up until we even get into the likes of IoT. And you would know that IoT, colleagues, is very important because IoT is the single is the biggest singular capability that best describes what we refer to as the fourth industrial revolution because of its simple and yet powerful role that it creates of acting as a bridge between the digital world and the physical world. But for data, this is a huge pain for us because the amount of data that are being generated, and it's not just the volume, it's the speed at which this data is being generated, is the multiple sources that this data is coming from, is the issues of whether this data is accurately generated or not. Can it be trusted? Is it reliable or not? And the process of having to determine that is quite painful. It is whether or not this data is not one dimensional, meaning that now we are not even just talking about multiple modalities and so on. All right. So what does this lead to now? It leads to a situation whereby we're generating quite a lot of data. This is a world view. If I ask you how many SMSs you've sent today, how many WhatsApp chats that you've sent today, we are all contributing to this. And This is cascading into organizations, making the practitioners in business intelligence making their job quite challenging. When you look at the accumulation point of view, I mean, in 2025, we are rocking, I mean, hundreds of zettabytes, and this can only get worse from here. And the process of your data experts getting insights from this through BI is going to continue to become quite a challenge. There are multiple modalities that are problematic in this regard, and the one that we also want to understand, especially in terms of why AI becomes relevant, is the data type. We've got a new form of data, a type or modality that we refer to as unstructured data. Your Excel, your fancy BI applications that you used to rely on to calculate your rows and records cannot process this kind of data. It's one of the reasons why we actually need advanced tools, and AI is one of them. And there's a plethora of big data, challenge. Sorry, I've been big data and AI tools in this regard that are further actually contributing to the state of a big data. And at this stage, we are in a space where it's no longer possible to actually rely on the traditional approach. It is for this reason now that we look at artificial intelligence at an application point of view. And colleagues, I will try to wrap up quite quickly so that I don't take time. When we start looking at the unpacking, and I make this very practical. This is a framework that I worked out. It's not a something that exists elsewhere. The first and foremost is that application of AI can start simply on a desktop AI. This is just hopping on your machine and going to an AI, a Gen AI interface or some other AI interface platform. There's many of them to choose from. We've got DeepSeek, we've got Grok, there's Cloud, ChatGPT, and so on. And immediately with that, there is a lot that you can actually get from that. Let me tell you something. If you are a BI expert and you want to generate a report in sales, and you want to know what the requirements, I can assure you that ChatGPT can give you better requirements than your user that you will rely on to tell you exactly on what you need to calculate and how to go about calculating that. Of course, there are nuances that are organizational context, and you need to keep a mind of that. Then you've got AI over the desktop with automation. This means that you can actually set up AI that works even when you are not sitting on the desktop. So if you look at RPA applications, that if you put an agent, for example, that can respond when a WhatsApp message is being sent or when a Telegram message is being sent, and tag that information and put it as part of the list. Or you can start looking at what I call open source desktop AI, meaning that you actually download the model. Let's say you download the reasoning model, and you actually configure that model on your desktop. Now, your data is not going to anybody's infrastructure. Your data is located on the very same machine that is running that particular model, and you can start engaging with that model to apply the model on top of the data that you have, or engage with that model depending on what that model does. Now, you graduate from desktop AI to now when we talk about African enterprises, where you start now incorporating AI as part of your business process. In this one organization that I worked with, we had a problem of um, actually the number of queries that went into our email inquiry accounts. It was just too many for the number of people that were there. I think there was about 70 people in the call center, and they were receiving on one mailbox in a busy period more than 50,000 emails per day. And this is on Africa's largest open distance university. It's not humanly possible to have to read that amount of emails. And what you will realize that those emails, there's actually maybe 5 questions out of the 50 emails that are being asked. And we leveraging enterprise AI, we're able to put together an agent, leveraging Azure in this case, that read the emails as they came, and through what we call a reg, when we augment the result, meaning that once we understand the questions that are being asked, we put documentation available for this agent to answer each and every email according to the information that we have provided, the accurate organization specific documents that we've made available. And that has reduced the emails that would have been attended by more than 99%. So all the generic questions that could be answered were then provided, and students in their nature, if they don't come back to you, it means that they are mostly satisfied. Then you can also look at open source enterprise AI, whereby you could still even do this in the cloud and have a VM that is not a service, but have a open source model configured in that VM and have your applications talking to that service through that VM without necessarily going into a third party service, which is a very different process as compared to if you're consuming that through what we call the enterprise AI through the cloud. Now, the reason why I'm emphasizing on this 5 pillars, program director, is that I believe that if you understand these 5 pillars and you understand what you can derive from these 5 pillars, you can begin to actually take your process, whatever process that you are currently involved with, digital or manual, that still requires a huge input overhead, and apply this framework on that particular process. And to do this very quickly, I've done a summary of when we do data collection as a first step. This canvas tells you everything that you need to be thinking about, from the activities that are involved, from the value proposition that comes, the role players that are involved, and so on. And you can migrate from doing this manually or semi-manually and look at leveraging the use of AI according to those 5 modalities. A very when we talk about augmenting the result, it's not a sophisticated thing. Even now, when you are prompting a ChatGPT using the desktop, you are able to give it the example of the result that you want it to produce. You are able to tell it that it must it must actually ensure that it cross checks its feedback against the facts that you are actually providing it. You are able to tell it to provide it in a particular style in terms of the format, or even when it comes to the tone, and have those things specified. Any reasoning model would do that anyway. But the important thing here is that there are ways and practices to control the hallucination that both Resuping and Dr. Maota spoke about, to ensure that the results are becoming more trusted. Now, you take that from a desktop experience and you take it into an enterprise experience, and then you can have a seamless service that actually ensures that the use of AI is actually policed, if one may be. In this case, if we are collecting the data, we want to make sure that we are leveraging the data dictionary, for instance. We want to make sure that we want to focus on collecting the attributes that are important for the outcome that we want. And At different variations of this application of AI for data collection, there is something that you can use AI for. The same thing would be for data transformation. Again, a manually intensive work, even in the digital context. You apply the model and you are able at every level. So if you have a free access to ChatGPT today or to DeepSeek today, you can start today. You don't. There's no need for you to wait for you know, for a later stage. And this is the process for business intelligence, where it will go through data modeling, it will go through data analysis, it will go through data presentation. And instead of now having to sit for weeks at doing a project that would have had to go through all of those process manually, with the use and leveraging of I can now use this, I can now develop and follow this pipeline more efficiently, more accurately, and I can actually have it repeated for multiple, you know, data sets or projects or scope, without taking the amount of effort that I would have actually taken before. Now, I said to you, colleagues, I'm not here to wow and impress you. I'm thinking about this very practically and in basic steps that anyone from today can actually apply on any process that you could be involved in, as far as leveraging AI to achieve a particular
Oh, we lost him again.
just share that there is quite a number of tools that are available. I think the presentation will be shared. Even for AI model in the enterprise, there's quite a number of corporates that are involved. There's quite a whole number of freely accessible AI models. And what we don't understand, colleagues, is that the majority of these AI tools that are being that we are subscribing $20, $10 every month, you could actually pick up a model today for free from Hugging Face and start training that model for your specific needs and actually have an interface on top of that model, and you've created a service. I mean, there's more than 1 million models that are available on Hugging Face alone. And in this regard, colleagues, we cannot say that we are waiting for. We can talk about the government budgets, we can talk about the policies, all those institutional aspects
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
being spoke about. We can start as of today. And in my final word, colleagues, I want to say that I don't believe in this thing. I'm of this very strong opinion that sometimes it is important to contextualize that we are in Africa, but we shouldn't do it in a way that suggests that we are lesser. Meaning that we need to think every young person that is in this room today, you need to know that you've got many of these things that are accessible to people elsewhere in the world. If you go to India, if you go to even Singapore, it's itself, and you look at what the youth is involved in those parts of the world, it doesn't necessarily have to be a situation where everything must be provided on the silver platter. You can start today and start today. There is 5 modalities at minimum that provides an invitation to you. And I want to say lastly, that for enterprises in the African context that want to be involved, if you don't have all the budget, the first and most primary step is to understand what problem do you want to solve with AI. I've just demonstrated at very basic level that a process that used to take me months to complete one project because of the steps that I had to follow, by using AI in the basic form to the most complex form, I can cut down on time and I can cut down on effort that is required to produce the same level of quality, if not better. So I really, really invite you to start looking at these things quite closely. Um, and the time is now. And you would have to go about starting what to have a business case, of course, and try to understand which capabilities you want to apply. And it's important that you organize your data well. AI is good with data, but only if your data is organized. Leverage the tools. We've spoken about the tools that can be made available to you. Some of them are already available to you. Promote the literacy of data and AI in your organizations. You need to make this a gospel that is sang, and try to get people that can assist if you don't have the capacity to find a scalable way. And the reason why you need a scalable strategy is that you want to start small and profit from the small start so that you can sponsor large scales implementation. Colleagues, let me pause here. Ordinarily, I would have loved to have taken even half of the day to go through these things in greater detail, but I hope that I have done some minimal demonstration, and I wish you all the best. And thanks again, program director and the technical team for allowing me to do this presentation. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Sokonolo. We are going to keep you at arm's reach so that we can have this just become a workshop where you can really break down each slide in detail. And after that, we can have a deep discussion about each point that you touched on. But for now, thank you so much, and we really appreciate it. We're going to let you go so that we can borrow the screen, and we can move along. You are welcome to stay, either to stay online, or to I'll send you the link to the live stream so that maybe you can continue watching at your own pace and time. But thank you so
Thank you.
much. Give him another round of applause, guys. That was really, really nice.
Where's the other mic?
I don't know. Okay, oh, it's here. It's here.
What?
Right. So remember that entertainment I was promising earlier. We are finally, I'm finally a respectable woman again. I'm no longer a liar. It's coming, guys. We've got our poet from earlier, Mr. Januma Cho, right? Who's going to be giving us a little bit of a performance. All right. I'm just gonna take the mic to them so that they do their thing. And yeah, man, enjoy.
But the movement so that challenges how we see technology, the movement that is by out the machine, not just digitally, but intelligent and inclusive. Inspire our country to introduce a remarkable young leader who is not only advocating for this shift, but building it brick by digital brick. Born in South Africa, Mr. Sipiwe Mabusela is a self-taught technologist, a visionary, entrepreneur, and the founder of several cutting-edge ventures, including Zulu AI, Stratida, Mindset 360, Kukinta, Leap Sensei, Teletrix, Muendo Fit, and the Robotic and Coding Academy. Without any formal education in the tech space, Mr. Sipiwe began coding at 13 and has gone on to design and deploy AI and innovation solutions that are now being used across schools, industries, and public institutions throughout the continent. He is a bold believer in youth, in makers, in meaningful change. He is also leading voice in shaping Africa's response to AI, not just as consumers, but as creators. He travels the world, but he builds at home. He partners with Chinese manufacturers, but his mission is Africa. And today, we welcome him not just as a speaker, but as the founder and host of the AI Digital Shift Conference. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Sipiwe Mabusela.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to be here in front of you. It brings me great joy, honor, and a deep sense of responsibility to stand before you today as we open our first AI Digital Shift Conference here in Cameroon. This is not just a conference, this is a movement. This is the moment that marks the beginning of something bigger than any of us here in this room. Thank you very much for coming. Usually before I speak, I always like to hand out presents. Thank you, this is part of our work. Well, in South Africa, I've developed different kinds of products, both in the Internet of Things space, in the artificial intelligence. We have built this device that I'm well known for, which is the LPG level monitor. This device helps you measure how much gas you have in the cylinder. This device, by touching it underneath the gas cylinder, it tells you how much LPG you have in your cylinder in real time. The watches that I've been giving out now, these watches we built. I think on the introduction, you heard them talk about Muendo, where we have built this smartwatch, where we integrated artificial intelligence for fitness purposes. Thank you so very much, Mrs. Televiso, for the presentation. It's my honor. Thank you very much, Dr. T. It's my honor. Thank you very much, Ms. Baby Subi. It's my honor. And I would like to appreciate Mr. Nisogololo for his presentation and all of the contributors to this. What I'm having here in my hand, this is the air quality monitoring device. This is what we install and set up in public spaces, which is whether it's in the high environments, which is in classrooms, etc. This is to monitor air qualities and collecting that data to be sent through to platforms where that data can be consumed usefully. There are other couple of products that were built. I would like Zulu AI to implement the introduction to one of our AI innovations in the education space. As they are preparing that, I would also like to introduce to you a platform as someone was showing you, taking you through the presentation on how we can harness the power of artificial intelligence in the business enterprise space. We have built a product, Stratida AI, that lets you input your business information. This is, it takes you to a relation there, you introducing your business, the different departments in that business, and then after all, it creates you an AI strategy. It asks you your budget, etc. Then it goes on the internet. It gathers different types of tools that are then suggested for the integration in your business. And besides that, after that has been done, it then continuously monitors how you are using those tools and then continuously help you to optimize and leverage the power of AI in your business space. I would like to let Ray go ahead and do the introduction of Zulu AI, one of our remarkable AI products in the education space, of which we launched it in South Africa. It is being used by
Jesus.
It is being used by over 1,000 students as we speak in South Africa. We are launching in China already. There are people that are using it in Shenzhen. There are people that are using it in Hong Kong. It has been also, it's in the process of getting adoption in Malaysia. I'll be presenting the same in Singapore. I'll be presenting the same in Hong Kong. In China, from the 22nd of this month of May to the 24th, I'll be there pushing the same solution. And then I will let him go ahead and play the introduction to us.
Learning.
Okay, as he prepares to open up for the audio, I will proceed and introduce our other product, which is the Lex Fusion Hub. This is built and developed for people in the legal space, which talks to the problems that they face in the legal space, spending more time doing research and drafting. Our platform consumes different types of documents and does the drafting, and you can actually in real time chat to the documents, chat to that information. Our Lex Fusion Hub is red-powered research and drafting, automated contract review with risk heat maps, meta-analysis and KPI tracking, template library with version control, trust center for compliance and audit, integrated team for collaboration and chat on different matters in the legal space. I know you fully were discussing the other time. This is regarding like the role of a legal person in the AI digital space, and of which now this is where we then say no, AI is not here to replace, but is here to enhance and make us more effective.
2 seconds.
Okay, thank you. I will proceed while they are figuring out the audio situation. Okay, I'll proceed. Thank you to every speaker, exhibitor, partner, and guest. Thank you, Miki, for the standing with us in amplifying this vision. And thank you to everyone who believed in this dream. from the first night sleeping at your apartment. Honor, thank you, I appreciate you and the Energize Physiotherapy business, the Energize apartments, to each and every individual that has welcomed us. This is the beginning, this is the start of a great movement. It doesn't end here. Log into AI Digital Shift. You're going to find a different interface where each of us are going to sign up, and then you're going to be collaborating with AI enthusiasts, with AI researchers, with a lot of other people in the AI space, not only AI, but AI and imaging technologies. And before I step, I would also like to uh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. I believe each and every one of us has looked up on LinkedIn. I'm Sipiwe Mapusela. We have Dr. Tseko Maota. You can connect with them. We have Stemi Soljamini. We have Shonolo. I will get the name correct. The last name, I don't want to mispronounce it. I'll practice it properly. And then, but you're going to be finding it on the AI Digital Shift as well as on other media platforms. And I thank you.
Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Pierre. We will be having our closing remarks from Mr. Ikinhigo.
Okay. Now, I'm going to stand in one place this time. We were supposed to have an application of everything that we'll be speaking about here today, but it will come in due time. The Valley Studios is an organization, an NGO that is youth-centered that I work with, and we had a nice chat with Mr. Sipiwe, and we agreed to sign a memorandum of understanding to try, well, not to try, but to start and to literally open a branch of the Robotics Academy at our establishment in Hamburg, West, to benefit our local community. So because of time, we're not going to be able to do it today, but I'd just like to make that announcement that is happening. And him and I are going to put our brains together. I have a project, computer rebuilding project that I put together for a school in Uchumi. We ran it for 3 years straight, for 3 terms, back to back, and it had a huge impact. Recently, at my daughter's first birthday, I met one of my former students who told me he's still using the laptop that he worked on in 2021. And this is a second-hand laptop that he received as a donation. We just put up a little bit of money for him to get some parts that were broken, to get those replaced. He fixed that laptop by himself, and he's still using it to this day. So that goes to show that sustainability does work, and that it's not about the hardware, it's about the software and your brain and your heart and the application that you put to it. So I really just wanted to make that announcement and to say this. You guys who are in the room today, you're part of something very special. And don't take this for granted. Someone once said that don't worry about starting something, you're going to fix it later. And I added on to say that everything that is born is not born old. It is born young, it is born as a baby, and it learns to walk, and it learns to fly. So this is us birthing ourselves, and everybody who is here was an invited guest, and we really appreciate you being here. But next year, you guys have to buy tickets again. Yeah? Yeah. So I only read like the few, yeah. Because now also the presentations that you heard, the speakers who came in today, just came. They were not paid. They paid for their own fuel. Okay? They crossed their own borders and they came here. So next year we want to at least do one up and help them out with something when they make the trip over here. And by that, gentlemen, you are invited again next year. Uh, we expect to see you again next year by faith. And next year we'll make sure that the right things are done to make sure that you appear and you do the needful. Mr. Letopano will be here as well. So I always like to finish with a call to action and a word of intent. Next year, this week in 2026, we're going to have our second edition of this conference. Okay? Next week, we're going to announce the date. Okay? That is my statement of intent. And the call to action is that as soon as that date is announced, we're going to open for ticket purchases. And you guys who are here should be the first people to go on the site and buy tickets, isn't it? It's going to be early bird tickets. Okay? And I would like for you guys to go over there, buy your tickets, so that we can start planning accordingly and we meet here again next year. So thank you so much for your time, guys. And we did not open with a word of prayer, but I think we can end with one. So I'm going to ask if there's a volunteer who would like to send us off to the blessings of the Most High. Anybody?
Let us pray. Blessed art thou, Jehovah, maker of the heavens and the earth. Thank you for this function. Thank you for the great insights. And thank you for the great prospects that we have for Africa, for our youth, and everyone involved. Lord, I pray, go with us. Let this be a milestone in our lives. In the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Students, I think you must be our designated donor. Guys, we got a few words. Thank you so much for coming. And we know we had promised lunch, but unfortunately, we ran out of money. We couldn't afford lunch. So, but you take time to get to know each other, to network before we go about our separate ways. Meet the speakers. We're going to be here for a little bit longer before they fly out and drive out. Talk to them, ask questions, anything that you need to understand. I'll say again that this is not the end of the journey with us and them. We're going to continue to look out for small, intimate workshops, hybrid workshops, where we'll have another chance to interact with them. So thank you so much to you, Era, for coming. Really appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Thank you to UB for coming, UB Radio specifically for coming as well. They are officially our sponsor on the airwaves. They really helped us out there. Thank you to Mary for really being with us from the beginning until now. Even before I joined the wedding, like God, before I knew you were there. So thank you so much to Mary for the partnership. The Embassy of Kenya for coming through. Thank you to our technical team for the stream. They're always there, but they're never mentioned, so I'd like to acknowledge them. Thank you to our MC, to our project manager, and where am I from the team? Lega people, thank you for coming. We appreciate you, all the other NGOs that came as well. And yeah, guys, with that, those few words, great feet, I see you. With those few words, we are released, and let's keep talking. I expect everybody to stay here and chat for another 50 to 45 minutes. God bless you, and thanks. Peace.
No problem. No problem.
I'm done. I wish I could do this tomorrow. I wish I could literally just go home and pass out. I forgot to thank